The world is filled with men who are unable or unwilling or incapable of asserting themselves, telling people what they want. Guys, life will give you exactly what you ask it. Today, I'm going to talk with you about being more assertive, and specifically, we're going to address 3 key ways to do that. And then when we close this thing out today, I'm going to share with you 5 key exercises that you can implement on a daily basis that will help you be more assertive. Just say no. You don't owe anybody an explanation. Men, I want you to be more assertive, not for my sake, but for yours. The world is filled with men who are unable or unwilling or incapable of asserting themselves, telling people what they want, being direct and clear in their communication, not manipulating, not playing games, and ultimately not achieving their heart's desire. And part of that, a large part of that, is because their inability to be assertive, to be clear and bold and precise and courageous. There's so many recovering nice guys in society today, and these guys let people railroad them. They let people run all over them. They don't get what they want, and ultimately they build up resentment, bitterness, contention, and animosity. Today, I'm going to talk with you about being more assertive, and specifically, we're going to address 3 key ways to do that. And then when we close this thing out today, I'm going to share with you 5 key exercises that you can implement on a daily basis that will help you be more assertive if you tend to be either a passive communicator or even a passive aggressive communicator. Now, before I get into that, guys, I just want to mention my good friends and the sponsor of this show over at Montana Knife Company. If you're looking for a good quality knife, whether you're going out in the field this spring or summer or even in the winter or fall for hunting, look no further than Montana Knife Company. Or if you enjoy being in the kitchen and you want a great culinary set, I have their culinary set. I use it just about every day, and I love how easy it is to slice through the veggies and the meat and everything that I'm cooking for my children. But again, if you're interested in a really high quality, made in America knife, go check out Montana Knife Company. And when you do, use the code Order of Man, all one word, Order of Man at checkout, and you'll get a discount for doing that. Guys, let's get into this today. Really, ultimately, if you want to have more in life, you're going to need to learn to be assertive in your communication. Let's talk about communication styles first. Number 1, and these aren't in any order, but you have a passive communicator. A passive communicator is somebody who may know what they want, but ultimately is unwilling or incapable of communicating it to other people. They're timid, they're bashful, they're shy, they're fearful, they're afraid, and they're not going to risk anything in order to put themselves out there. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you have an aggressive communicator. This is a bully. This is somebody who just runs over people, runs roughshod, doesn't really care about other people's opinions or what they think. It's very selfish. He knows what he wants. He goes after what he wants to hell or high water. And if anybody gets in his way, that's on them, not on him. That's a problem. You're not going to have... You might get compliance, but you're not going to have commitment from people, and that's clearly a problem. Somewhere in the middle, you have this version of communication, which is passive-aggressive. This is the class clown. This is the guy who's sarcastic. He can't seem to take anything seriously. He mocks, he belittles, he's rude, he makes snarky, backhanded, underhanded comments, and he's just annoying and obnoxious. Humor is fine, and that's one thing. But if you're hiding behind humor or hiding behind sarcasm, we all know, we know that it's a coping mechanism. It's a tactic to hide your fear. And that's the one thing that those 3 communication styles all have in common. They're afraid. Afraid maybe of different things, but ultimately they're afraid. The passive person is afraid of being ostracized from the group, is afraid of being mocked and ridiculed and belittled. The aggressive communicator is afraid that he will be unnoticed or that he won't get what he wants and he won't get the attention that he desires. And the passive aggressive communicator is afraid probably of both of those things. And so he cloaks his fear behind humor, behind comedy, behind sarcasm. And again, there's nothing wrong with being humorous and funny, but if it's 100% of the time, I can't help but wonder, what is it that you're trying to hide and why are you being the way you are to everybody around you? Now, the most healthy form of communication is assertive communication. This is a man who knows what he wants. He knows what he's willing to do. He understands the cost. He's willing to enlist other people. He's certainly willing to communicate what it is that he desires with other people, but he also takes their perspective into consideration. He also considers their point of view and what they might bring to the table. And he's more about cooperation and commitment from himself and other people than he is simply getting people to comply. He's bold, he's direct, he's assertive, but he's also humble, and he's gracious, and he's willing to listen to the input of other people. That's the kind of man that I want to be, and I strive to be. I'm not always that way, just like you aren't always one way or the other, but I think all of us, myself included, could do a whole lot better job of being more assertive than we are passive aggressive or passive aggressive. I tend to gravitate naturally to more of an aggressive communication style, or if I'm feeling snarky, to get into that passive aggressive stage. But I'm always striving to be more assertive in the way I communicate. Now let's talk about this. Number one, you have to know exactly what it is you want. It seems like most of the time when I do these Friday field notes, that's always step number one. You have to know yourself. How much time on a daily basis do you spend thinking about what do you want to accomplish in your relationship, in your business, with regards to your physical health, your mental stability and well-being, your spiritual growth and evolution, the kind of relationships that you want to have with other people, the kind of hobbies and activities and life that you would like to enjoy. I have this tool that I use. It's our 12-week battle planner, and I spend a lot of time, specifically every quarter, thinking about what we call our vision, what I envision my life to look like over the next quarter or year, 5 or 10 years. And then we reverse engineer the process, but it's all based on the ultimate objective of the kind of man that we want to be. Too many men know inherently and instinctively that they want to improve their life, but they're not real clear on how to do it or what that actually might look like. So if you have a tool, use it. If you don't, I'd highly recommend the 12-week battle planner. You can get it at the store at store.orderofman.com, or I believe at orderofman.com/TWBP. TWBP for 12-week battle planner. And we're going to walk you through how to create a vision, how to identify quarterly objectives, how to identify tactics, things you can do every single day to ensure you're achieving your objectives which align with your vision. And then we help you come up with checkpoints to make sure you're on the path along the way. But we got to get past this I don't know mentality or I don't care. Sometimes my kids will say, I don't care. I don't buy it. I think, yeah, probably there's some things where you may not really care about, but for the most part, I can't really think of too many things that I genuinely have no opinion on. I do care. And that might be a personality thing, but if you're saying I don't care or it doesn't matter or I don't know, then you might be defaulting into this passive communication style that certainly is not going to allow you to get what you want. I spent a lot of my time, most of my, almost exclusively my adult life in career pursuits that are centered around sales. And we know that the number one reason that people don't get the sale they're after is they don't ask for it. Guys, life will give you exactly what you ask of it. If you ask very little and nothing of life and you just let it happen to you, that's exactly what your experience is going to be. If you demand a lot from this experience that we have and you're willing to put forth the work and articulate what it is you want, life will give you exactly that. Number two, we need to practice being assertive. Guys, if you are not assertive, you're aggressive, you're passive, or you're passive aggressive, then you have to practice. And it's not going to feel comfortable. It's not going to be easy. I wish I could just say, just be more assertive. That's it. It's not. It's hard. If you're not used to asserting yourself and just kind of slinking away into obscurity, for me to tell you that you need to do X, Y, and Z and tell people what you want, I acknowledge that that is not going to be an easy task. It's simple, but it isn't easy. If you're a jerk and aggressive to every single person that you come in contact with, scaling it back a little bit and teaching you a way to communicate not less than, not inferior to, but in communicating a more effective way to get what you want over long and sustained periods of time, it's going to be difficult for you not to be that aggressive communicator. So the best way to do this is to practice and acknowledge that you're going to feel uncomfortable, but that the discomfort you're experiencing is worth the result that you will achieve when you decide to clearly articulate what you want and enlist other people, platonic, personal, professional, relationships, to achieve not just what you want, but help other people achieve what they want. Now, I'm not going to break this down too much further than this. It's going to take time. It's going to take practice and commitment and dedication to improving. But when I get to the last point I wanted to share with you today, I have 5 exercises that you can employ every day to help you practice the concept of being more assertive in your communication with other people. All right, number 3 is we have to constantly evaluate our performance. When you go from passive communication to assertive communication, you are probably going to feel like you are being aggressive. That's because it's all subjective. If we're to look at this as a sliding scale, and on one end of the scale you have a passive communicator, and on the other end of the scale you have an aggressive communicator, the passive communicator, if I'm telling him to move into being more assertive, is going to believe that he's going too far and he's becoming aggressive. The aggressive communicator, if I'm telling him to ease up, pump the brakes, learn to involve other people in the process, maybe deliver that a little bit differently to land a little bit more effectively, that person's going to feel like they're being too passive in life. So we have to constantly evaluate our performance. And we do that by looking at and evaluating how people are responding to us. That's the greatest indicator of your ability to communicate effectively. If you aren't getting what you want out of life, it's probably because you haven't articulated clearly. That's something that you should know. If you have articulated it clearly, but you're having a hard time enlisting the buy-in of other people, they don't trust you, they don't believe in you, they might do what you want, but you don't feel total commitment from them, that's a pretty good indicator that you are probably being too aggressive in your communication. If you find the sweet spot, which is, I feel like I communicate effectively, I feel like we're on the path to achieving my desired results, the people around me seem to enjoy being on this ride. They seem to be willing to communicate with me when they have fears or doubts or concerns or frustrations or even wins and successes they're willing to share with me. And they seem like they're bought into what we're doing. You could look at this in a romantic relationship. If you have ideas for the family dynamic and your wife seems to be on board, that's a good indicator that you're communicating in a way that lands with her. If in a professional front, you have a business partner who bucks your ideas all the time, isn't really willing to negotiate on any of that, maybe that's going to tell you something. If alternatively, you have a business partner who never takes your thoughts into consideration, who never considers what you might think, who never considers that maybe he doesn't have all of the answers and that you might have some, that's an indicator that you might be passive. So let's look at the way people are responding to us. And that's not to say that you need to change your opinions about things necessarily. There is a time for that when you have new information that changes things. But you might want to be flexible in the way that you communicate with people. We hear this thing of the 0 F's mentality. I don't care what anybody else thinks. If they don't like it, that's on them. If they don't understand, they're an idiot. No. If they don't understand and you need them to understand, then you're the idiot because you're not communicating in a way that's powerful for them. An assertive communicator is able to ebb and flow and weave through this interpersonal dynamic based on who he's talking with. He's not changing his personality. He's not changing who he is at his core or his opinions about things. He's not being dishonest with himself, but he's able to articulate concepts, ideas, desires, requests in a way that lands with other people. And every single person is different. So we as men who want to influence and inspire other people to do things need to be able to read what other people are feeling. Hey, that person seems put out right now. Good to know. What can I do in my communication to move the mission forward but to get them on board. These are all things we need to become more aware of. Now, guys, let's break down 5 really cool, really uncomfortable things that you can do on a daily basis that are going to help you be more assertive in your life. Number 1, and a couple of these are going to feel maybe a little trivial, but just try them and let me know what you think. Number 1, when anybody asks you about something or your opinion about something or asks you to make a choice, force yourself to make the choice. A classic example is everybody at the office wants to go to lunch and everybody's kind of him-hawing around about where we're going to go and what we're going to do. You make the choice. Just say, hey, I want to go to this steakhouse. Now, they can agree or disagree or come up with something else, and that might happen. But ultimately, the exercise is you communicating what you want. If somebody asks your opinion, your wife asks your opinion about which dress you like, you don't say, it doesn't matter, I don't care. That's passive. She's asking for your opinion, so give it. And you can do this tactfully. Hey, babe, I like the blue dress. Or I like the summer dress. Or I don't like any of those dresses. You know what? I actually like that one thing in your closet. You should wear that. Whenever you're presented with an opportunity to communicate your opinion, share it. Now, don't have any expectation. Don't believe that just because you share your opinion, the other party's obligated to take it, because you're going to be let down and set up for disappointment. It's not what I'm saying here. I just want you to get comfortable with sharing your opinion. If you're in a board meeting and somebody says, hey, Joe, what do you think about this? We're really struggling in this one department. What do you think? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Whatever you guys think. That's not an acceptable answer if you want to be more assertive. If you're okay with where you are, then sure, by all means. But if you want to be more assertive, share your opinion. It's going to be uncomfortable. What you share is probably not going to be polished because you're not used to doing it, but this is what it takes. Number 2, ask for a discount every place that you go. Every single place. Do this for a week, do this for 2 weeks, do this for a month. It's very uncomfortable. It's not an easy thing to do. It seems like it is, but it really isn't. And you're going to have all sorts of stories like, oh, they're going to think I'm cheap, or gosh, I'm slowing down the line. Like I should just do it. Just do it. And I'll tell you why. Because you're going to learn to be uncomfortable in interpersonal communication. And it's okay. You're not going to always feel comfortable about what needs to be said. The other party isn't always going to be comfortable about what you need to say. And if you can put yourself into this environment of discomfort when it comes to communicating with other people, you'll find out that it's not as scary as you think. Oftentimes, probably the majority of times, you'll get the discount, which is the object of the game, to get what you desire, which is to save some money. But you're going to find that you can do it. And you're going to find that you can still articulate what you want, even though you don't feel comfortable about doing it. So that's lesson number 2, or experience number 2. Number 3, this one's tough. Learning to say no without explanation. I think a lot of people can say no, but they usually come up with an excuse as to why they can't. So for example, you have a friend. He calls you up and he's like, hey, can you help me move this weekend? And you don't want to help him move. So you say, well, man, I'd really love to, but I made a promise to somebody else, and well, we might go out of town, but we don't know yet, but can I get back with you? Like, we all know the game. What I want you to get good at is saying no without an explanation. How does this look? Hey, Joe, can you help me move this weekend? No, I can't. Period. That's it. Now, if he asks why, you might clearly communicate that, and I'll get that in a minute. But that's going to be really, really difficult for you, especially if you're used to coming up with excuses. Just say no. You don't owe anybody an explanation. Now, maybe some people you do, but for the most part, the overwhelming majority of the time, you don't owe people an explanation. And it's not about whether you owe it to them or not. It's about just learning to be vocal to be bold, to be assertive, and not to have to feel like you need to justify your reason for doing something or not doing something with other people. I don't need to justify why I can't or won't. I don't need to justify why I will. Some people I will, because I have a commitment. My kids, for example, the woman I'm dating, for example, because there's some commitment there above and beyond just saying no. But for the most part, no, I don't owe anybody an explanation. If your boss says, hey, can you work overtime this Friday night, and you don't want to, the answer is no. Hey, I really appreciate you asking. I appreciate the opportunity, but I'm not interested in that. Thank you. I'll see you Monday. That's so hard to do. But I promise if you can get better at that, you're going to learn to be more assertive. All right, let's go to point number 4, and that's to constantly be evaluating your language. Language is interesting, but it's important. And I want you to start being more precise with your words. If you say you can't do something, and I'm focusing on the word can't, what that means, by definition, is you're unable to do it. Can't means you're unable to, physically, mentally, emotionally, time-wise, etc. You cannot do it. Can't does not mean I don't want to do it. And there's a distinction there. I want you to be more clear with your words, because when you learn to use your words precisely, you're going to say exactly what you mean, and that's really important. When I was doing retail management, part of my job was to recruit and bring on new employees. And I remember vividly some of the instruction that we received was if we were turning somebody down for a position, the verbiage that we used was, we do not have a position for you here. Period. There was no embellishment. There was nothing. It was, thank you for coming in. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for your interest. But we do not have a position for you here. Now, one habit I got into, which is wrong, by the way, is we do not have a position for you here right now. That's a little bit of a change of language. It's a little bit softer. We don't have a position right now, because what does it actually mean? Well, it means that we might have something for you down the road. Is that true? No, it's not true. These are individuals that I'm not interested in hiring now or later. So if I'm using the verbiage, we don't have a position for you right now, it's just kicking the can down the road. And it's giving them a false sense of hope that you shouldn't do anyways. So the correct verbiage was, we do not have a position for you. If I said, we do not have a position for you here now, then they would ask, oh, when do you have something else available? And because I was being soft and passive, I'd say, I don't know, check back in a couple of months. They don't need to check back in a couple of months. I'm not going to have a position for you then. So why are we using language that doesn't clearly articulate what exactly we want? The can't versus the won't, the we don't have a position for you right now. Even the language of, I don't know, I don't care, whatever you think. No, if you care and you actually have an opinion, then don't say that, because you're lying. Use precise language that articulates exactly what you mean. This takes practice, and you're going to slip up and you're going to foul up because you're trying to preserve other people's feelings and you're trying to preserve the way you feel about letting somebody down, but use precise language. The last one that I have for you guys, and this one's going to sound like a throwaway, but it's very important, is just be honest in all things. It's easy on the big things, very easy on the big things. It's the little things that are harder. Your wife says, did you like this meal that I made for you tonight? If you didn't like it, you have to say it. Now, there's a tactful way to say it, so I'm not saying that you need to be a jerk, because ultimately you do need to tiptoe into a little bit of an asshole territory if you're used to being a passive person, because you don't know what's appropriate and what isn't. You don't have that framed yet. But I'm not giving you a permission slip to be a jerk to people. But if she says, hey, hon, did you like the meal? And it was overcooked, you can soften the language a little bit by saying, hey, you know what? I really appreciate you cooking dinner for us tonight. But yeah, this one wasn't my favorite. It just seemed like it was a little dry. Like, you can say that. You should be able to say that. And by the way, in order to have the capital to be able to say something like that, you also have to be able to give the positives either in that moment or when there's other meals that she cooks, for example, that you really enjoy. So if she makes a delicious meatloaf, then you need to say, hey, babe, this thing is amazing. Juicy, tender, beautiful flavor. This is like a top 5 meal for me. And that way, when you come in and you have to say, no, that one wasn't my favorite, it doesn't derail everything. It doesn't blow her world up. She just chalks it up as, yeah, it's not his favorite. If she says, hey, do you like this dress? As hard, and this one's a constant debate, but as hard as it is to say, if you don't like it, you might say, to soften the language, you know, that one's not my favorite dress, but you know what dress I really like is I like that blue one that you wear. Again, you're using precise language. You're being delicate in your approach, but you're being honest. When people ask for your opinion as to whether or not you like something, what you think about something, it's important to be honest. Why would you not? Well, I understand why you wouldn't, because you're afraid. And you're afraid of two things. You're afraid of hurting other people's feelings, and you're afraid of the discomfort that you will experience if you do hurt other people's feelings. Other people's feelings are not your problem. It's something to be aware of, especially if they're people that you care about. But ultimately, honesty is the best policy. Because what I want in a relationship, whether it's with a friend or romantic interest or professional relationship, is I want to be a trustworthy person. I want the other party to know, hey, when I ask Ryan about something, I may not always like the response, but I know I'm always getting a truthful answer from him. And there is tremendous, tremendous value in that, especially because we live in a world of dishonesty and manipulation. So it's really refreshing when somebody is tactfully honest. So guys, I hope that serves you. I would love to see more of us be more assertive. It's going to be interesting. If you're going from passive to aggressive, you're going to feel like a dick at times. If you're going from aggressive to passive, you're going to feel like a passive wimp at times. You'll find it if you're willing to really pour into it. Let's break this down again. Number 1, know exactly what you want. Number 2, practice being assertive over time. Again, you're going to have to tiptoe into that asshole territory a little bit because you don't know what's appropriate and what isn't yet. Number 3, to evaluate your performance based on how other people are responding to you. And then the exercises are telling people what you want when confronted with an opinion. Number 2, asking for discounts for the next week or month, wherever you go. Number 3, saying no to people without an explanation. Number 4, evaluating the language. I can't do that versus I don't want to do that is good language. Or the analogy I used was hiring people, we don't have a position for you right now, although the real answer is we don't have a position for you. And then the last one is be honest in all things, especially the big things are easy. Be honest even in the little things. Do it tactfully, do it politely and respectfully, but share your opinion and be honest. I hope that serves you. Guys, let me know how it goes. If you're implementing this stuff, if you're trying these things for the first time, I know it's scary. I know it can be a challenge, but I also know it's worth it, and you'll experience big, big results in obtaining what your heart desires in this life if you're more assertive. All right, guys, we'll be back next week. Until then, go out there, take action, be assertive, and become the man you are meant to be.